And here we are, 19 years to the day that this episode aired. Star Trek Enterprise episode 13 or 14, depending on where you look, Sleeping Dogs. Right. Do you remember watching this show 19 years ago today?
Absolutely, I do. Yes.
What's did you rewatch it before we came on here, or were you familiar enough with it?
No, I literally watched it like a couple hours ago. Yeah, so it's fresh in my mind.
So when you first watched it, or before you watched it, you watched it again for this show, was there anything that you were expecting that did not happen, or like anything that stood out to you as like, oh, I don't remember this?
No, I mean this one's pretty fresh in my mind because I do remember even before today. I actually watched it last year when my wife and I were going through Enterprise. So I still remember this episode. So nothing really stood out to me. But yeah, for the most part, I enjoyed it. It's kind of like a middle of the road Enterprise episode. But for the most part, you know, I enjoy the season 1 episodes. I know a lot of people say that Enterprise doesn't, you know, get good until the 3rd season, but there are a lot of strong episodes in the 1st and 2nd season. So this one had a lot of great moments, I think.
Yeah, this episode it was fun. It didn't stand out to me as a standout episode. It was just kind of it was a solid episode that didn't do anything special. I think it's the best way that I can describe it. So yeah, what I feel like I kind of just like immediately jumped into this episode. Like I haven't actually really talked to you in, I think it's been like a month. Since the end, it's been maybe not a month. It was the last episode of Discovery, which was like 3 weeks ago now, I think.
3 weeks ago, yeah.
So what have you been up to? Like, what have you been keeping busy with?
So I've been mainly doing Twitch a lot. I'm on Twitch, so doing a lot of video gaming, and I'm also doing like graphic design stuff on my stream, which has been pretty fun, pretty cool. Also, Ranger Command celebrated 7 years this month.
Wow! Congratulations!
Thanks. So we just released our 7th anniversary episode, which we actually did live on YouTube last Monday. So it's I can't believe we're already a month done in 2021.
Right.
I mean, this whole month has just flown by. It really has.
It's weird because like 2020 felt like it took forever, and now this year is just kind of like off to a rocket start.
Exactly. How are you?
I'm good. I'm tired. I've been going back and forth between working out of the office on doing some remote food shows, which is kind of bizarre.
That's interesting.
Yeah, those will be going up on the Food Network probably. Actually, the first ones that we did a couple of months ago might even be airing now. It's called Guy's Grocery Games Delivery, where he's at his house, and then we sent camera crews out to all the various chefs and sent them basically like those Freshly type boxes with a bunch of ingredients in it. And and they have to cook from there and describe what they're making to the judges who are watching them through Zoom. So it's fun. It's fun. It's something different. It's kind of cool to see how some of these shows have modified themselves to work with the current times that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then other than that, not a whole lot. Just kind of like grinding on the back end with some of this Illuminerdi stuff.
Absolutely.
I picked up Cyberpunk 2077, so I've been playing that.
Any huge issues?
Okay, so I'm playing it on my Xbox One. So of all the places to be playing it, I'm playing it on the system that has the most bugs.
Right.
But I've not really run into that many. When I first started playing, I believe the issue, the problem that they just patched, the problem that they made with patch 1.1 and then fixed with patch 1.11 I think I was past that point, so that wasn't an issue for me. So
Nice.
I'm not sure if that was a conversation that I had already, or if that's another conversation that's coming up later in the game. So either way, it wasn't an issue for me. But the only game breaking bugs that I've had was I fell through the
Mhm.
world once, and
Oh, that's always fun.
yeah, I didn't die. It just reloaded my location and put me on the ground. Uh,
Yeah.
and then one of the first quests that I was on, I think it was basically the same issue that this last patch caused, where I had to talk to one of the Ripper docs, and it wouldn't let me continue that conversation with him, so I couldn't end the quest.
Oh.
So I walked out of the shop, and immediately some bad guy across the street saw me. It was like, "Hey, you! I see you!" and starts shooting at me. It was not nearly high enough level to go into combat with them, so I died. And as soon as I respawned back where I was before, it let me pick up that conversation and
Oh,
end the
okay.
quest. So I haven't had any like major bugs where I've been like, this sucks. I'm not gonna play it anymore. I'm done. It's just
Right.
like random like Bethesda type issues like all over the place.
Of course.
So I don't know. Have you seen? Speaking about Bethesda, have you seen
Sure.
anything about Starfield?
Wow, I haven't. That really hasn't been on my radar. Have they released some news for it?
No, like nothing. I have
Oh,
absolutely no idea what
yeah.
this game is. I saw the teaser
Yeah.
that they showed on TV when E3 was supposed to be, and that's it.
Yeah.
I am so curious about what this game is.
And as much crap as I personally give to Bethesda, whenever they release a game, and sure they've been known to have buggy games, but for the most part, I've loved Skyrim. I love the Elder Scrolls
Mm-hmm.
series. I love the Fallout series. Except 76, I played it. I
Yeah,
heard it got better, but
I have
whatever.
I bought it. I played through maybe like 10 or 15 hours of it, and then it
Yeah.
just kind of I forgot about it. Like something else came out, or like I got busy, stopped playing it, and then when I went back to playing games, I was like, I'm kind of over that game now, and
Yeah.
I haven't had any desire to pick it back up again. So
Mhm.
maybe I will, but now it's like a subscription service, so I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know, but yeah, when they did the Starfield announcement, that was like the high point. I was like, when? Just
Mm-hmm.
tell me when, show me more, because Bethesda has already proved that they can do like medieval Dungeons and Dragons type stuff. They've proven that they can do the Fallout Apocalypse Wasteland type stuff. But for them to do something space related, that's right up my alley. I want to play it. And I feel like have you ever played oh shoot, The Outer Worlds?
Yes, I'm like maybe 30% into that game. That's another one where I picked it up, I started playing, I was having a lot of fun with it. Ended up going out on set for something, and I didn't bring my
Yeah.
Xbox with me, so I just kind of like let it go. And now when I sit down to play games, I'm like, no, I gotta beat Cyberpunk, but I want to go back. I really want to go back and play that because it's one of it kind of reminds me a little bit of I don't know, like if Portal, like if that world was an
Yeah.
RPG.
Yeah, and the only reason I bring up The Outer Worlds is because it's the same developer
Mm-hmm.
that worked on Fallout New Vegas. And I know it's a different developer, but they were able to take something like Fallout and change it to a space related thing. So I wonder whatever Starfield is going to be like The Outer Worlds or be some type of game like that or more open.
Yeah, like a sci-fi Skyrim,
God,
maybe.
I would lose my mind. I would
Yeah,
lose my mind. I would spend so many hours in that game. I can tell.
I just like I was at Best Buy a couple of weeks ago, and I was staring at the Quest 2,
Yeah,
and the only reason that I was going to buy it was going to be for Star Trek Bridge Commander,
nice.
and I just couldn't justify it just for that one game. I'm like, it's $400. I
Oh,
want to play this game, but can I justify spending $400 just for the machine and then another like 20, $30 for the game just for the game.
I think Bridge Commander, I think it has like a non-VR mode.
Oh,
Like
does
you
it?
can still play it without the VR stuff.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I think that's because I think my friend has it and he says you don't have to have the VR for it.
Okay. Because once we can all figure out our schedules and figure out like a Star Trek game night, whether it's going to be like,
Oh
because
yeah.
like what I was thinking, and we can figure out how to do this, is maybe pick a night, whether it's
Hmm.
like a Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, whatever, and it's just Star Trek games. So like each week we can either shift through Star Trek Online, and then the next week can be the Star Trek pen and paper game, and then like now we could look at like Bridge Commander. We can try and figure out like a rotating schedule of these Star Trek games that we can play.
That would be so cool. I love most Star Trek games. So yeah.
All right, so we'll have to talk to Charles. We'll talk to Joe. My roommate
Nice.
Jamie is really into Star Trek stuff. I'm trying to get him to come over and start doing some Twitch stuff with us. So yeah, we'll figure that out.
Cool.
Okay, so back back to Sleeping Dogs. So the title of this episode is obviously a reference to the I don't know what you would call it, like a
Just a
colloquial,
saying.
colloquially, what are those things? Yeah, sayings.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Let sleeping dogs lie, uh,
Yes.
which is basically a reference to if it's not hurting anyone and it's not doing anything, don't touch it because then it might.
Right. Right.
And we kind of find that out very quickly when they send a probe down into this gas giant and discover that a Klingon ship has crashed into it, and they're like, "Well, should we go get it? I guess we can help." And that may not have been their best choice.
Yeah, and one of the big reasons I like this episode, it's because it's one of the few episodes that Hoshi really takes center
Yeah,
stage. And for that reason, I really like this episode just on that fact. And this is I thought the teaser was great because we get more of I'm always a big Star Trek tech guy, and
mm-hmm.
literally the opening shot is seeing the phase pistol completely open and Malcolm dropping one of those charge packs into it. It's so great that the toy manufacturer at the time that had the license, Art Asylum, they made a replica phase pistol toy that does that same
Oh
action
wow,
and it lights up. And it was so accurate to what they did on screen. I think in the last couple seasons of Enterprise, the production had bought a lot of those phasers to use as background props so they could have a lot more
that's
phasers
really
in the
awesome.
background. Yeah, yeah.
That's really cool. I have to look and see if I can still find one of them. I'm sure I could probably find them online.
Yeah, you could. It came with like it was called like the away team set, and it
Yeah,
also came with a replica like mini communicator
that's really
that
cool.
chirped. Yeah.
QMX. Like I
Yes.
recently started following them, and they have some like really cool toys, and I guess stat figurines.
Props and
Yeah.
yeah.
The like the figurines are some of them are a little on the cartoony side,
Right.
but I like that style. Like they're really dope. I'm gonna have to put some
Yeah,
money
yeah.
together.
QMX has done some great stuff over the years for Star Trek. Yeah, they were one of the key licensors for Star Trek. Yeah.
So with these Klingons that we found
Mhm.
on the ship, did we get names for any of them?
We only got, I think we got Buka, which that was the medical, um, the person that the Klingon that they captured.
Yeah.
So
The female.
yeah, other than that, the Klingon captain didn't get a name. So none of the other Klingons were named in the episode except Buka.
So that's interesting. Like as far as like choices in the episode go, like I wonder what the decision was between like in like whether they were just like, oh well, we're never gonna see these Klingons again, so who they are doesn't matter, or If there's
That
like
could
a
be it.
specific, if there was like what, like why they didn't do that? Because does she show up again anywhere?
She does not. Yeah, she's only in this episode. So I think it was just, some random Klingons. But did you notice who was playing the Klingon captain?
That was from Deep Space Nine, right?
No,
No.
it's Vaughn Armstrong who plays Admiral Forrest and
Oh,
several other aliens and stuff in Star Trek. So the actor that they originally got to play the Klingon captain could not fill in for the pickups that they needed to film for that episode.
right.
So they just pulled Vaughn Armstrong because he played a Klingon before in the Next Generation. And so they're like, "Hey, we'll just slap some more makeup on you, and since you're Admiral Forrest, we have you on hand." So yeah, he's an actor who's played many different roles in Star
Interesting,
Trek. So
because
yeah,
at first when they showed him on the view screen, like to
yeah,
me it looked like Martok.
a little bit, yeah, yeah. But yeah, he's played three Klingons in his role in Star
Oh
Trek.
wow.
He played Captain Chorus in Heart of Glory
Okay.
and Shades of Grey. He played Korath in Voyager's last episode, and then this Klingon captain in this episode.
Interesting. Um, that's always I always enjoy when series like this have like that same person that you could be like,
Mhm.
oh, I've seen him. It's like like momentarily it takes you out of it, but then as soon as they start acting, like all of the character actors that they get are just so good at their jobs that they are
Right.
completely different. I mean, we've talked about him before, but Jeffrey Combs,
Jeffrey Combs.
like, is
Yep.
just one of those guys who just like constantly shows up. And then I was watching Stargate last night
Nice.
because I'm going back. I watched the pilot of SG1 because they had just brought it onto Netflix, but they
Yep.
were showing the original Showtime version, not the cut cut
The
up sci-fi.
sexier version.
Yeah, not the cut up sci-fi version. So I was like, I know that in addition to all of the changes for cable that they made, they
Right.
also re-edited a lot of stuff because
There was a remaster that
yeah.
they put out. Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know which one of these I remember. So I'm gonna rewatch this pilot to see what differences I notice. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of them. But then after watching that pilot, I was like, all right, well now I'm gonna watch the next episode, and now the next episode. So like even though I just rewatched SG1, like I rewatched all of Stargate. Like I
Oh,
think I
nice.
finished Stargate Universe like sometime towards the middle of 2020. I was like,
Hmm.
all right, well I guess I'm gonna start over again. Um,
I love SG1. I love the whole Stargate
yeah.
universe. It's amazing.
Let's see, what's this guy's name? But what another guy that constantly shows up is one of the guys at Stargate. Um, is the guy who played Todd, I think, in Atlantis. What is his name?
Todd.
Christopher Heyerdahl.
Okay.
So he was in the episode that I watched last night of SG1, and then
Uh-huh.
he shows up as two different characters in Atlantis. He's one of the wraiths and one of
Oh,
Taylor's
okay.
people. And then he went on to be in a regular, I think, again with two different roles in the Amanda Tapping series, the like that first big green screen show that they did.
Right.
I
Right.
can't remember what it was called off the top of my head, but he's like all those guys. He's like that the Canadian version of Jeffrey Combs, where he just like
Right.
keeps popping up.
And yeah, so, and there's several, great actors that are showing up, and because now that Discovery also films in Canada and
Mm-hmm.
Toronto, you're starting to see some of those actors who are like staples in those types of sci-fi shows that film in Toronto. Now you're seeing them start to filter into Star Trek,
Yeah,
and it's pretty cool.
it's great. Like for me, it's interesting to me too because like there's Canadian shows that are clearly Canadian. Like you can watch them
Oh
and
yeah.
you're like, this is a Canadian sci-fi show. But then shows like Discovery and the American productions that are just shot in Canada,
Right.
like they feel more like American shows. But then you're watching, you're like, wait, I know them from Continuum, and it's like a really it's a really weird, like they're all actors, but it's just bizarre to kind of see that crossover sometimes.
Hmm.
Like I was watching, what was I watching? Um, from one of the Stargate guys, Joseph Malozzi. He had a show on Sci-Fi a
Yeah.
couple of years ago, Dark Matter, which got
Yes.
canceled way before its time. It was a really good show. Ruby Rose was
Oh yeah.
was in like one of the first few episodes, because I was rewatching that recently. I was like, she looks really familiar, and went and looked it up. I was like, oh, that's Ruby Rose. First time I ever saw her in anything was an episode of Dark Matter.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. So yeah, going back to the phaser thing, I really enjoyed how this episode opened, because it did put that spotlight on Hoshi,
Hmm.
and it showed her getting more into the Starfleet stuff outside of just being like the ship's linguist.
Right. And I also like that it shows that Malcolm is still working with people individually,
Mm-hmm.
because like they introduced in the first episode, the phase pistols are newer technology. They've only been on Enterprise so far, and that's what Hoshi mentioned in this episode, that she's used to and she was trained on the EM-33, which are those pistols that they used in the first episode and come back when the Makos are in Enterprise in the third season.
Right.
So, and I love those guns. I love the phase pistol, or not the phase pistols, the plasma pistols, the
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
EM-33s.
Yeah. Those are really cool. And other technology that they introduced in this episode were photon torpedoes.
Yes, yes. For chronologically in Star Trek, this is the first time that Starfleet learns about photon torpedoes. So that was a really cool moment. And also just the fact of what they were able to discover while they were on the ship, Gah. And we see a Targ, a fully CG
Mm-hmm.
Targ for the first time.
It was interesting, because I like this episode did a lot to set up who the Klingons are,
Right.
and teach us more about them, even though this is now the third episode we've seen them in.
Yes, and they make a mention of that in the episode itself. They said, "Yeah, this is like the third time we've encountered Klingons." So, this is it. Like there have been no off-screen appearances of the Klingons in Enterprise. We've seen every encounter so far of them. And I love that Captain Archer keeps digging and trying to learn more and adapt to his way of negotiating with them and dealing with them.
Yeah, it's really actually surprising to me that they're doing it almost in real time,
Right.
like that, rather than having them had, okay, well, now we've had an experience with the Klingons, so we should probably learn more about them, and then have that happen off screen.
Yeah.
Like we're seeing it all happen. Like they're just like, all right, well, we have an encounter with the Klingons, so let's learn what we can. And then like the next one, it'll be the same thing. It's be like, okay, well now, what more can we learn about them? So
Hmm.
I think that's a really fun way of doing it, because now the audience is learning along with the crew.
And it's great for longtime Star Trek fans as well, because if you've been watching Star Trek and you watched this 19 years ago and you were already caught up on like Voyager and Deep
Mm-hmm.
Space Nine and all that, like all this information is not new, but it's the experience of seeing these characters deal with the situation for the first time.
Right, right, and well, and that they're this is the origin of everything. Like, I mean, we
Right.
get. I think it's in season 3 or season 4. You'll be able to correct me on this, but when they learn what, like, about the genetic plague or whatever it was
Yes.
that changed the Klingons, it's like, okay, this has been set up in the previous series. We
Right.
didn't know why this was a thing. We just knew that it was a thing, and now we're actually finding out how. And I that's what I'm really enjoying about Enterprise, is that
Hmm.
we went into outside. I think, like, really outside of the Ferengi. Um,
Right.
in Next Generation, we had already, like, they already had a relationship with the Klingons. Like everything, they walked into that like they already knew what was going on, and as the audience, we didn't need to be filled in on all of the backstory. We
Hmm.
were just like, okay, this is how things are. The same thing with like the Andorians,
Yes.
it just all these species, with the exception of the ones that they're making first contact with,
Hmm.
we just assumed, okay, they exist, they know about them. We don't really need to learn anything more about these species. It's all about the exploration of these new species that they're learning about. But now, in Enterprise, every species is new. So
Yes.
so now we're getting the origin story for everyone, and it's when this is one of those things like with Discovery when they announced,
Hmm.
hey, we're doing this series that's taking place earlier in the Star Trek history instead of going post Voyager. I was like, ah. But now upon my probably my second watching of the series, I'm like, no, this is actually really a really smart way of doing this, because
Hmm.
even though we were past all of this, no one knew any of these stories that they're telling us. This is all brand new information for people.
Right. And that's what I appreciate about Discovery too is, you know, when they were able to say, "Oh yeah, it's 10 years before Kirk and Spock." Well, still, you're mining a time period that we don't see that
Mm,
often. And that's why I loved the second season of Discovery so much, is because we saw that early Spock. We saw him younger on the Enterprise. I loved Anson Mount's Captain Pike.
it's so good.
I'm so glad that we're getting Strange New Worlds. I cannot wait for that. And have you seen the Paramount Plus
Yes.
commercials?
Yeah, Patrick Stewart narrating and like
Oh,
all the characters
so
there.
good.
Yeah, that was so great. I do wish there was a little bit of interaction between Pike and Dora.
Yeah, because they're both explorers.
Like that like everything about those, like even Snooky popping up at the end going, I'm too hungover for this shit. Like it was just so good. It just makes me excited for what I hate the name, like Paramount Plus. Like it
Yeah.
just feels, I get it, but it just feels very generic now because we have, in addition to Paramount Plus, Disney Plus, AMC Plus, Discovery Plus. Like it's just
Yeah.
it's more of the same. Like I don't know what I would have called it, but
Right.
I don't know.
I don't know if you noticed this, but so Captain Pike did show up in two of those commercials. Did his hair look different to you? Like they added more gray to it or something? It looked
You
that
know,
way
now
to
that you
me.
mention it, yeah, it does seem like it was maybe a little bit grayer.
Yeah, it was his hair was slightly longer. It would still had the regulation cut that he
Yeah,
had, but I noticed there's a bit more of that gray streak in there. So I'm like, I wonder how much of a time skip are we going to have in Strange New Worlds? Are we closer to his end run as a captain before he's promoted to fleet admiral? Like, I'm just curious how much time difference there'll be between the ending of Discovery season 2 and when Strange New Worlds happens.
right. Yeah. So we got Donnie Pearson in the chat here, and he says that he loves the Paramount Plus commercials,
Yeah.
and seeing Anson Mount and Ethan Peck as Spock and Pike in them.
Yeah, and Spock was sporting some nice leather gloves
Yeah,
in that commercial. I thought that was a nice touch.
yeah, and he posted a link. It looks like he made his own version of the Paramount Plus logo. Uh, that says 5 more weeks until CBS All Access becomes Paramount Plus. If that was the logo design that you made, that looks really good.
Yeah,
Um,
nice.
it fits within the aesthetic that they've already made. It's a good skill to have.
So going back to this episode, what did you think about um Hoshi, T'Pol, and Reed kind of teaming up for this away mission? That's a pairing that we don't see a lot
No,
of.
I thought it was a really fun grouping, because
Mhm.
you've got T'Pol, who is, she's typical Vulcan, not really showing emotion. Then you have Hoshi, who is like a very emotional person, and then Reed, who it's kind of like a cross between the two. Like
Yeah,
he's a little bit aloof, as we found out a couple of weeks ago, a few episodes ago, when they were trying to figure out what to get him for his birthday,
yeah,
and no one knew anything about him. But at the same time, you can see when things aggravate him and when he's excited about things or happy. Like he has a full range of emotion. He just doesn't necessarily always let on to
right,
who he is. So seeing them all interact together, like even the moment when T'Pol and Hoshi were together, and Hoshi was having second thoughts about being on the mission, and
right.
T'Pol came over. I was like, "Hey, let me help you," and went through and helped her calm down. Like you could see that there is definitely a relation. Like her I don't want to say she's being humanized, because that doesn't really sound like the right word, but
She's growing accustomed to the
yeah,
crew.
yeah. She's really building a relationship with all these people.
And we get another time confirmation in this episode that, Reed says, "Hey, we've been out here for 5 months."
Yeah,
So we get another confirmation of like that passage of time. And uh, kind of talking about to Paul acclimating to the crew earlier in this season, she kept complaining about the smell of humans and all of that. And then even at the end of the episode, Hoshi's like, "Oh, do you smell that?" Like nothing, like talking
oh
about the
yeah,
Klingon scent. But to Paul didn't make a side comment like, "Well, I
I
don't
still smell
smell
you. Yeah,
Klingons, but
yeah,
I smell you." So that even a touch like that, and them egging on to Paul to stay longer in the decontamination
yeah,
chamber, like she's starting to really get along with the crew. And another point of that is there were episodes earlier in this first season where Hoshi and T'Pol were very confrontational
yeah. Oh
at
yeah,
times.
yeah. Like yeah. So like it's the team building and relationship building and character building overall. Like everything that they're doing week to week to week, and seeing how the crew is becoming more like because you watch Next Generation, and by season 5, everyone it's more like a family dynamic.
Sure.
Like there's still the chain of command, but since they've all been working together now closely, there's
Hmm.
more of that friendship and family type dynamic that's happening, and you can see the beginnings of that like 13 episodes into Enterprise, and it doesn't
Yep.
feel like they're pushing it like hard. It's just it feels like a natural progression, and I feel like
Yeah.
that's more of what this episode was. Like the story itself was it was like, okay, cool. They found a ship, they helped to get free, and now they had this run in with the Klingons again. But it felt more like a character building episode than a story episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And, going back to that family aspect, Enterprise was produced after Voyager. And towards the end of Voyager, Voyager had a blatant family vibe. I mean,
Yeah, oh,
they were
yeah,
saying family like every other episode. So it's nice to see that they carried over, that the producers and some of the writers that were still a part of all these shows, they kind of applied that to Enterprise. And it makes sense. It's because there's only like what, 90 people on this starship,
yeah,
and it's a very small crew. So when you're working with 90 people, you have to kind of get to know everyone pretty quickly and develop those working relationships pretty fast.
yeah. Well, yeah, and I mean, not only that, but you have to be able to count on these people too.
Yeah.
So like just like trusting them and building that trust that they're going to have your back is really important, and it seems like that's coming like it's moving along, like
Yeah.
it.
And one of the great things, it's a little thing that I noticed in this episode when Hoshi first requests to Captain Archer to go on the away mission. He already knew that T'Pol wanted her on the mission,
Mm-hmm.
but he gave Hoshi the chance to speak up for herself and come to the same conclusion that he was already going to assign to her. And again, that's another sign of what a great leader that Captain Archer is and what a great captain he is. So I like that in the back of his mind, he knew that she was already going to be on this because DePaul already requested it. But he just let her talk about it and come to that conclusion herself. Like, I want to do this. I'm confident enough in my abilities. And he's like, well, good. DePaul's already picked you.
Okay, so off topic a little bit. Do you think, because we know from the J.J. Abrams movies
Yeah,
that Archer survived into the Kirk era?
sure.
Do you think there's a chance that we might see Scott Bakula make a cameo appearance in Strange New Worlds?
Oh my God. I would love if that's the case. I mean, they'd really have to do some like Chris Evans old makeup
Yeah.
type of effects on him. They'd really have to age him for ancient Archer. Um, but yeah, he I know that his little biography said that he was there for the launch of the Enterprise, and I don't remember if that was supposed to be Kirk's Enterprise or April's Enterprise,
Right, right.
which which would be too late because April was before Pike and all that stuff. So I don't know. It would be cool. If anything, I just want Enterprise the reunion movie,
Right.
set at the beginning of the Federation in that like last mission. Like, get rid of all the BS from that last episode of Enterprise. Just give me the Romulan War or something.
I mean, it would be so easy to do because, realistically, yeah, I've got Star Trek: The Motion Picture on in the background here,
Yeah.
and that came out in 80, right? It was 79, 80.
The motion picture.
Yeah,
Yeah, 78, I believe, or 79. Yeah.
yeah, late 70s, maybe somewhere around there. So that was 15 years after uh
Right.
the original Star Trek. So we're now 19 years, 20 years after Enterprise aired. The ages of the characters aren't really that different.
And it matches up. And, they had last summer, they had Enterprise um, for the Star Trek online stuff that they were doing
Yeah.
last year at conventions. They had an Enterprise reunion panel, and everyone still looked pretty good
Oh
for,
yeah.
15 years since the end of the end of the series.
Well, I mean, Scott Bakula is still doing, what was it? Not CSI, NCIS, New
NCIS
Orleans.
New Orleans. Yep.
So like he's still out there. I
He's
know.
looking good. That's a
Yeah.
CBS show.
Jolene Blaylock she's still around.
Disappeared off the
Yeah.
face of the planet.
Like speaking about Stargate, she was on
Yeah.
one of the episodes of Stargate that I watched recently.
Yeah.
As like a Jaffa leader of some kind. Yeah, Malcolm Reed, Dominic Keating. I'm not sure what he's up to. Trip. I know a few years ago he did another Stargate thing.
Right.
He did that Origins movie that they tried to get off the ground, which was
And he was also in
great.
Atlantis.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I think it would be pretty easy for them to talk the crew into coming back.
Yeah, and I know like Linda Park, I actually saw her pop up in Apple Plus TV series, the reboot of, gosh, what's that Twilight Zone type show? Oh, I
Amazing
forgot.
Stories.
Amazing Stories. Yeah, she was like a doctor as one of the side characters in one of those episodes. So
I haven't finished getting through that yet. I watched a few episodes of Amazing Stories. So far, the best one that I think I saw was the one with Robert Forster as the grandpa that got the superpowers.
Yes, that was great.
Yeah, it's fun, and like the theme song from that show is just epic.
I remember
like,
that as a kid. That's so burned into my memory. When I saw that they did a remake, I was like, "Oh my god!"
Classic
I have to watch
John
it.
Williams like overture type thing. see. We've got a new person in the chat here, Aaron Gallo. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, that's my partner in crime on the Starfleet Escape podcast that we
Oh,
do.
nice.
Yeah.
So he agrees that Scott Bakula would be a great cameo, and he confirms that the motion picture came out in '79. So
Yep.
that was the year I was born.
Well, hey, I like that you have it on the background. It's nice. It's nice texture to all of this.
Right? You know, like before we went on, I was like, because I had Ultraman on before this, because now on the Retro Ranger wrap up, because we don't know what's happening with Power Rangers after it leaves Netflix.
Right.
Maybe it'll go to Paramount Plus. Yeah, it would make sense since Nickelodeon is there, and if they're
Right.
going to be continuing the contract, hopefully that's where it would go.
Well, Hasbro works so much with Paramount
Mhm.
anyway.
Yeah, so that makes sense. But since we don't have an announcement declaring anything, we're like, we want to keep doing a series that people can watch along with us, and
Sure.
not make people have to pirate things.
Well, yeah, it's the same with Ranger Command, because we always do like an extra episode where we do commentaries on, you know, random episodes of Power Rangers, and we don't know what we're going to do after this month. You know, we may just have to pick a different topic going forward for those extra episodes. But yeah, it's kind of this wild time right now. It's
Yeah,
this void.
yeah. I don't know. So we put up a poll on YouTube here, and it was between uh, Ultraman 2019, the Netflix
Yeah.
series, uh, Akiba Ranger,
Yeah, Akiba
which,
Ranger.
which also is not actually streaming anywhere, at least not legally. Um, Something called Mighty Motion Emo Rangers.
Oh,
That's a
the emo
parody
Ranger.
that came out like 10 years ago, I think, which
Yeah.
looks amazingly funny. I'm gonna have to watch that on my own outside of this anyway. Um, Gridman, which is on
Yep.
Hulu now, a new series, and because I wanted to annoy Corey, the reboot that's on Netflix,
Oh God,
which is it's so bad. I watched the first half of
it's
the first
terrible.
season, and I was like, this is like, I get it for kids, but I feel like they could have just gone in a new direction and been like, okay, this is a new show that has a similar plot,
Right.
and not
But
not
to tie it to the reboot
yeah, to
name,
tie
it's
to a reboot. They were trying to capture the nostalgia that our generation has for that, and it's not a show for us. Like
no.
I can admit that it's the show itself is fine. I'm just not the target audience for it at all.
Right.
And it's definitely like even though I can watch things like Power Rangers that I'm not the target audience for either, and be like, okay, I get what they're trying to do here,
Yeah.
and still enjoy it, but watching that, I was just like, no, that's I can't, I couldn't do it. Um, so yeah, so I don't know. Hopefully we'll find out within the next month or so where Rangers is gonna go.
Yeah.
Um, So, what else about this episode stood out to you? Was there anything that you saw that outside of like the technology that we were talking about,
Sure.
or character moments? Was there anything specific that you saw where you were like, oh, all right, this is a cool moment in the show?
Yeah, I thought the solution to um well, overall I like when Enterprise, because they have so many like specialists on the ship because it's their first mission out as Starfleet. I like that they were trying to come up with multiple solutions to the problem. You know, Reed Hoshi and Reed talking about the photon torpedoes and having that argument about, you know, blowing up the ship
Mm-hmm.
versus, hey, we need to go into a higher orbit. So they were coming at the solution at that problem. And then Archer and Trip saying, hey, let's just reinforce one of our shuttles and try to get down there. And so I like how both sides were trying to come to a solution, and they ended up meeting each other halfway.
Yeah,
And I think that was a great way to show the crew coming together for teamwork.
yeah. Because it turns out that even though the weapons fire was only minimally helping them
Mm-hmm.
get into a higher orbit, the weapons fire itself is what drew the shuttlecraft to them and how they were found. So even though
Yeah.
it may not have worked to fix their problem overall, it still coincidentally helps them get caught. And that's always usually how life turns out. Is just
Right.
like, okay, maybe this wasn't the right choice, but it worked.
One of the funny things that just stood out to me too is when the Samra, which was the Klingon ship, a Raptor class, which was new for this episode and that we didn't see much of again. Very cool Klingon design.
Yeah,
I love the sleeker class of the Raptor ship. I really like the look of that. But the fact that, even though Enterprise just helped these Klingons, they're ready to go like, all right, now prepare to die. And Archer's like, wait, what?
I feel like that was the Klingons trying to regain their honor, being like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
we just got fucked. Now we need to win a battle so that we can go back to Kronos and be like, hey guys, we just defeated Starfleet, ha!
Look at us, we're awesome. Yeah,
And
yeah.
it didn't work out for them that way.
No, no, that was a great moment. Yeah, I really just really enjoyed the interaction between Hoshi, T'Pol, and Reed. I liked that we got to see more of a Klingon ship, more of kind of like the ins and outs, and them discovering everything. Just that whole dining room table, and T'Pol comments on the Gah, and just all the things that we know about the
Yeah,
Klingons, but to see it through their eyes and them kind of discovering, wait, they've got photon torpedoes, they don't have escape pods, all this stuff where they're like, man, the Klingons sure do things different from us. That it was just a great like exploration
yeah.
moment for this crew.
Well, and that's one of those things that kind of relates to modern society still, is that
Mm-hmm.
their culture is different. Just because it's different doesn't necessarily mean it's wrong. It's just their culture,
Yeah.
and learning how to interact with people that have a different culture and have a different set of ideals than you do is how progress is made.
And
And the,
that's why I like that Archer was like, he was like, wait a minute, you know, they they lose their honor if they're not confronted with, an honorable death. So for him to turn that back around and convince Buka that was like, hey, you guys are going to lose a bunch of honor here if you don't help us. Like, for him to turn the situation back around on her, just a great
yeah,
moment of like diplomacy on his part.
that's one of the things I really like about him specifically, is that
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Picard was smart. Cisco was smart. Like all of the captains that we've had have been intelligent, but you can see Archer, like you can see all the wheels turning in his head and him
Yep.
figuring out exactly how he's going to do things. Whereas with most of the other captains, they just kind of innately knew what they were going to do,
Right.
where he's still figuring it out. And you can see that he's working working everything out in his head as like, I know how to do this,
Yeah.
and moving ahead. So you get a feeling for how smart he is,
Mm-hmm.
but you're learning what he's doing at the same speed. So it makes him seem a little bit more, I guess, like an everyman than some of the other captains were.
Yeah. And to that point, I enjoyed that scene where he's working things out with Tucker and they're both working on the shuttle. Archer is not afraid to get in there
Yeah,
and, put on a welding mask and help out his team. He's not above that as a captain. Like, sure, there could have been like three other engineers that could have worked with Tucker on this, but Archer was using that as another moment to kind of talk things out with his best buddy. Like,
right.
I'm trying to figure this out too.
Well, and that also kind of ties back to how his father was like one of the engineers that was working on the
Yeah.
Enterprise itself, and that like he was surrounded by that kind of work his entire life, so he kind of knew where to go in in that world. Like that's someplace where he feels comfortable.
Yeah. Another really nice subtle moment that I liked in this was Malcolm once again impersonating Tucker's like southern drawl,
Yeah.
which he did in the premiere. And I like that they brought that moment back, which have you guys got to Shuttle Pod 1 yet, or is that in the couple weeks? I think that's in a couple
I
weeks.
don't think so. Let me see.
Because that is literally one of my absolute favorite episodes.
Yeah, that is. Let's see. That originally aired February 13th, so that's like 3 episodes. Right? Yeah, episode 15. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's. I think we're 2 episodes from that one.
Nice, nice. So that was a good one. But yeah, just they again they were building those little steps throughout the season, developing the groundwork for their relationship. So for Malcolm to just casually slip in the kind of poking fun at Tucker, that was just a nice little moment that carried from the premiere that I enjoyed.
Yeah. Now there was something bizarre that kind of stood out, and not really bizarre. It's just I think viewing things through the lens of 2020, 2021, like
Sure.
this era, that last scene when they were in the decontamination thing,
Yeah.
and Malcolm is sitting there, basically in just boxers. T'Pol is in like these really like
Yeah. Sure.
short booty shorts and a really small tight tank top, but Hoshi was wearing like she wasn't showing as much skin as T'Pol was.
Sure.
So it was a weird thing where I was like, okay, well if she's able to wear that, why isn't T'Pol able to wear that? Like, is that a personal choice? Like, like
I
just try to like I understand what the reasoning was from
sure.
a hey we're gonna show skin point of view,
Of
but
course.
like in like me trying to get into the characters and what was going on there, like just trying to figure out like what the in story reason was that for
So
that.
the reason how I justify it is, and we all know the decon scenes were there to show skin.
Yeah,
It's
I mean I'm not
freaking
complaining.
it's UPN. I'm not complaining either. I'm
Yes.
not complaining either. But from a Starfleet standpoint, of course, they have their standardized military underwear and all that stuff.
Right.
But I think for T'Pol, like a reason that showing more skin, quote unquote, I just don't think Vulcans see that as like a sexual thing. It's just
Right.
like this is form over function, or this is function over form, and it's a logical thing. And who cares?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that they because they're I don't know, because sexuality, they're more reserved when it comes to that, instead of when it's in pon far. So things like sexuality and showing skin or whatever, it doesn't really affect them. So I think they have no problems with that. And yeah, I just don't think they have a problem with that.
Actually, so I just pulled it up again here just for uh, reference. Um, and I'm actually not. She's actually not wearing that much less than Hoshi was. The difference is mainly in the shirt that Hoshi's wearing is like a tighter spandex,
Oh, sure.
um, and it's a little bit longer. But other than that, yeah, like Hoshi's wearing basically the same shorts that Malcolm is. So
But
so
but speaking of
yeah
costuming, I did like the that we got to see the undersuits for the spacesuit. We
yeah
usually don't see a lot of that. So those were some pretty nicely designed pieces.
yeah the costume. It's funny because when right before we were on, you mentioned the pajamas costumes that they were wearing in the motion
Right.
picture, and that's one of the things with the Enterprise is the costuming is actually really solid. Like that was always one of those things with Voyager and Deep Space Nine and Next Generation, where I was
Right.
like, who would wear this stuff?
Yeah.
like it's always like, you know, like I remember watching an episode of Deep Space Nine, and like Jake Sisko is like crawling around somewhere, and his pants had an elastic strap that went around the bottom of his shoes to hold them in place. And I'm like how, like that doesn't really seem very futuristic to me.
Well, that's one of the reasons I like Enterprise so much. And well, even in Voyager, towards the end, they had a couple of really cool costumes. Like I remember there was when they were racing in the Delta Flyer, and they had like these Starfleet racing suits that were all white
Yeah.
with the color. I was like, whoa, that's a nice costume.
Yeah,
Um,
those were good. Yeah, all of these costumes in Enterprise Discovery, all like everything that people
yeah,
wear in that is really on point. Like it, like even though some of the things, some of the clothing that some of the alien species wear, you know, you look at it and you're like, okay, well that's not something that people on Earth would wear, but
yeah.
it looks like alien fashion.
Hmm.
It doesn't look like someone just like grabbed a couple of curtains and sewed a shirt together with it,
Exactly.
which is what some of the stuff on TNG looked like. I remember like an episode where like the O'Briens went on vacation somewhere, and Miles is just like wearing like this really like it looks like he's wearing like the poofy shirt from Seinfeld. I'm like, what is this?
Well, thankfully, Star Trek costuming has only gotten better
Yeah,
over
yeah,
time. But one of my favorite spacesuit designs is the Enterprise spacesuits. Those things are so slick and look really functional, and it looks closer to what we would have today in the
yeah. Well, I
spaceport.
mean, those spacesuits looked good. The movie, the TNG movie era
Oh,
like suits
that's
from
my
First
favorite
Contact,
spacesuit of all time.
those
Yeah,
looked really good. And even in Discovery, the spacesuit that Burnham was wearing when she went out and she got in the very first episode when she
yeah,
was fighting with the Klingons, like all those spacesuits looked like really dope.
yeah,
Like it's just so much better than what we saw in the regular day-to-day episodes.
exactly.
So I think we've pretty much gotten through most of everything in this episode.
Yeah.
Um, what would you rate this episode as far as
Uh,
ratings?
I would give it 3 out of 5 Delta shields. I think that's fair. I while I did like um all of the crew teamwork, and it was more of a Hoshi episode. The real plot to this, the situation that they got in, it was just kind of like standard Star Trek. So a middle of the road episode for me, but there are some good moments in this. So I'm not going to completely write it off.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Three out of five sounds good. It was a very middle of the road episode. There was nothing inherently wrong with it. There was just
Yeah.
nothing special that stood out about it either.
Hmm.
It was just there.
It was there, but yeah, it's the smaller moments that I appreciate that we talked about for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, absolutely. There, yeah, it wasn't by any means bad. Just nothing,
Yeah.
you know. It was, yeah, just there.
Eh.
Next week's episode, we are on Shadows of Pajem, which again, this is weird.
Yes.
According to Memory Alpha, it's episode 15, but on the Google search when I pulled up Shuttlepod 1, that came up as episode 15 too. So I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows? Whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Um,
The next episode that we're covering is Shadows of Pajem, which brings back the Andorians.
I definitely want to be there for that one because that is a good episode.
Great. So next week, I don't know if Joe will be with us, but it'll definitely be me
I
and
miss
Eric
Joe.
Barry. Uh,
I miss Joe.
yeah, Joe. I don't know who's interviewing today. I'm sure I'll get a text message later saying, "Hey, I just sent you some more videos." Um, but I know he's been doing. He might be doing more WandaVision interviews because
Nice.
the way Disney is pushing it this time around is each week, they are spotlighting one of the like some of the, I don't know if you can really call them side characters, but some of the other people outside of Wanda and Vision that are in the show. I think so. I think coming up we might have Johnny Woo, or Jimmy Woo, Randall Park, and
Yes.
I don't know who else he has coming up, but that one I'm excited for. Like I really hope Joe asks him about the card trick.
Oh, that was my favorite subtle moment of that episode for sure.
Yeah, like I saw him do that. I was like, that looks really familiar. Why do I know that? And
Yeah,
and then I saw your post about it. I was like, yeah, that's
that's
exactly where I
it.
know that from.
Yep.
So yeah, so you'll be able to find Joe maybe on Screen Rant later this week with his interviews from WandaVision, possibly next week on the Ranger wrap up if he's around, and hopefully on the Riker maneuver, talking about episode 15, The Shadows of Pajem. But until then, coming up here on the Illuminati tomorrow night at 8 is the Illuminati Wrestling Order. And Eric, what else do you have going on this week? I know you said you've already posted a couple of
Yep.
your things. Do
Yep.
you have more coming out?
Yeah, so like I said, we just released an episode for Ranger Command for our 7th anniversary. And then I'm pretty much streaming most of the week on Twitch at twitch.tv/TrekkyB47.
Nice, nice, nice. I am desperately trying to put together a Fall Guys group. Uh, it seems like the Illuminati is split between people who are playing it on the PS4 and people who are playing it on PC.
Uh huh.
I've got it on PC. I'm like, well, if I'm running the stream, it has to be
Yeah.
PC. So,
Exactly.
so maybe we can figure out something for that.
Nice.
But until then, live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper. That came out all robotic.
Perfect.
All
Perfect.
right.
All right. Later, all.
Engage.